is working on it. Yeah, so we should be...
If you can answer us first.
You hear the music now, right?
Yeah, I will start it now.
Okay, great. So I will let the people in. Yalla, let's do it, and good luck.
Thank you.
Eve, stay with us.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was my...
شايف البحر شو كبير كبر البحر بحبك شايف السما شو بعيد بعد السما بحبك.
So for those who are joining us already, we're having some music while we wait for the others.
يا حبيبي
And we'll have like 4 minutes before we start with our discussion today.
نطرتك أنا ندهتك أنا رسمتك على المشاوير يا هم العمر يا دمع الزهر يا مواسم العصافير نطرتك أنا ندهتك أنا رسمتك على المشاوير يا هم العمر يا دمع الزهر يا مواسم العصافير ما أوسع الغابي وسع الغابي قلبي يا مصور عبابي ومصور بقلبي شايف البحر شو كبير كبر البحر بحبك شايف السما شو بعيد بعد السما بحبك كبر البحر وبعد السما بحبك يا حبيبي يا حبيبي يا حبيبي بحبك نطرتك سنة ويا طول السنة واسأل شجر الجوز شوفك بالصحو جاي من الصحو وضايع بورق اللوز نطرتك سنة يا طول السنة واسأل شجر الجوز شوفك بالصحو جاي من الصحو وضايع بورق اللوز ما أصغر دمعة أنا دمعة بدربك بدي انظر شمعة وتخليني حبك وشايف البحر شو كبير كبر البحر بحبك شايف السما شو بعيد بعد السما بحبك كبر البحر وبعد السما بحبك يا حبيبي يا حبيبي يا حبيبي بحبك.
I hope you enjoyed the music. We're playing the music so we can wait for our participants to join. We're already 18. So I guess we can start already. So our talk today is actually, the topic is technology to the rescue, the digital relief solutions supporting Beirut. First, I would like to give you a small brief about Digital Arabia Network and the work we're doing. So Digital Arabia Network is a group of people who believe that technology can change our lives for the better. And we have joint efforts to play a role in approaching that and shaping the future of the MENA region. We followed a holistic approach towards digital transformation, an approach that brings different stakeholders and bridges different topics from politics, business, arts. We currently work across 5 spheres: arts and culture, business and the future of work, civic participation, gender equality and inclusion, online media and journalism. And so far we have covered topics such as fighting fake news, digital rights, future of work, smart and open cities, and many, many more. All of this has started in Berlin 2 years ago with 2 co-founders, Mrs. Bassant Helmi and Dr. Ayad Lanni, and 6 steering committee members active in Algeria, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Morocco, and Tunisia. So our journey today brings us to Beirut. After the August 4th explosion, the need for relief was huge, and above all, local capacities. And the response were quick from within the country and abroad, and still are. The relief took different forms, from volunteering on the ground to financial aid and organizing donation campaigns and in-kind donation campaigns, medical aid, finding shelters, removing the rubble, helping in the actual reconstruction and refurbishing of the apartments, saving, So you need to know that Beirut suffered greatly. Over 300,000 residents were affected. Over 200 people have lost their lives. The number of wounded is above 6,000, and the material damages were spread over a 10-kilometer radius. But the relief efforts were as huge as the explosion. The Lebanese Red Cross said every available ambulance from North Lebanon, Bekaa, and South Lebanon was dispatched to Beirut that day to help the patients. Military hospitals were installed, and I'm sure you all have followed the work that's been done in the first 24 hours, but what happened later? And today we have with us 4 panelists who worked directly and smartly and who are still supporting the relief efforts. People who believe like us in the power of technology, changing our lives for the better. We all know that technology has a ripple effect and can duplicate efforts exponentially. So let's discover together today how this was used following the Beirut disastrous explosion. Our panel will be for techies and non-techies, as the work we will be discussing have humanized the technology for everybody. I will first present each one of the panelists, and then we will immediately start with our panel discussions that will focus on 2 axes: the humanitarian relief efforts and the cultural heritage preservation efforts. So our first panelist is Melda Salha. Hi, Melda.
Hi, Eva. Can you hear me well?
Yes. Melda is the co-founder of Open Map Lebanon, an open data community that aims to promote data-driven decision-making in Lebanon. She is also a doctoral researcher at the Bartlett Center for Advanced Spatial Analysis at University College London. Her research focuses on extracting economic insights from satellite data using artificial intelligence. Melda is also currently a consultant at the World Bank, where she is estimating population and poverty exposure to flood risk at the global, regional, country, and subnational scales. Prior to commencing her PhD, she worked as a management consultant at Monitor Deloitte in Dubai. Melda has a BA in economics and peace justice studies, so she did a double major from Wellesley College in Boston. She also has a master's in science and urban economic development and a master's of research in spatial data science and visualization, both from University College London. We also have with us Ala Karanouh. Hello, Ala. I hope she's with us, actually.
Yes,
Ala
I'm
is
here.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Ala is a crisis operations officer and ambassador at the Volunteer Circle. The Volunteer Circle is a local NGO. Her main role is centered around community building and promoting the Volunteer Circle as a digital solution that disrupts the way we tap into volunteering and skill sharing in Lebanon and the MENA region. Ever since the August 4th explosion, the Volunteer Circle has been used as a digital tool that strengthens the response for relief in real time, and Ala's role was extended to match the right organizations to the right skilled volunteers, as well as to the causes that needed them the most. She's heavily involved both remotely and on the ground. From Paris, we have Yves Ubelman joining us as well.
Hi.
Hi, Yves.
Hi.
And so Yves, just after being graduated from the Marseille School of Architecture in 2006, Yves worked as an independent architect in Syria, Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. He carries out surveys and studies on various archaeological sites until 2010. It gave him the opportunity to develop in 2009 a new approach to photogrammetry that he will be telling us more about, and for the survey of the cities. So from 2010 to 2011, he is employed as a specialist engineer at the Microsoft Research in Riyadh Joint Center, with the computer science department of the École Normale Supérieure. He then develops the different 3D scanning methods based on recent photogrammetric reconstruction algorithms. This can sound Chinese to you, but he will explain all of this later on, don't worry. And in 2013, he followed his passion. He founded Iconem, his company, a startup specializing in the digitization and endangered archaeological and heritage sites. Today, Iconem is active in around 30 countries, and it aims to produce ultra-realistic digital doubles of archaeological and heritage sites around the world, combining several 3D scanning techniques with the use of drones. Iconem has already digitized many iconic heritage sites: the Saint-Jacques Tour in Paris, Pompeii in Italy, Delos in Greece, Parmela in Syria are a few. These missions are carried out on behalf of major museums like the Louvre, Grand Palais, National Museum of Singapore, and international institutions such as UNESCO, World Bank, and also archaeologists or governments and local authorities. We also have with us Bachar Tarabay, joining us also from Paris.
Hello.
Hi, Bachar. Bachar is an architect graduated from École Nationale Supérieure d'Architecture de Paris, Belleville, in July 2018. He has a diploma in specialization and deepening architecture and heritage. He previously followed his studies in architecture at the Faculty of Fine Arts and Architecture of the Lebanese University, Beirut Second Branch. He started his specialization in heritage in Lebanon with 1 year of studies in restoration and conservation of monuments and historic sites at the Center of Restoration and Conservation of Heritage at the Institute of Fine Arts of the Lebanese University in Tripoli. Since 2019, in June until now, he held the position of architect at the Caillou Agency, where he had the opportunity to work on restoration projects for listed historical monuments. His sites, in particular, the survey and preparation of the diagnostic file for the interiors of Nancy Cathedral. He also trained in photogrammetry at Beirut Air Support, which allowed him to develop a new approach for heritage and to measure the infinite possibilities offered by new technologies for the preservation and enhancement of heritage. He was able during this experience to work on monuments such as Moussa Michel. So we'll start very shortly with our questions, but before I would like you to know that we have with us Ms. Rasha Hamidi, who will be translating with us into English for sign language. Thank you, Rasha, for being with us. And wherever you have comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the chat room and we will go back to them in due time during our talk today. So with no delay, we'll start with Melda. Hello again, Melda.
Hi, Eva.
Hi. I hope it wasn't a long introduction for everybody. So you launched different initiatives, okay, relevant to the needs of the people affected in the blast, but also many others where you consolidated all the needs and connected them with the active NGOs. Can you tell us more about the initiatives and mainly Open Map Lebanon and the team behind it, and if you can share with us as well how the map functions for those who want to know actually what were the digital solutions offered and what made the relief work easier and less complex on the ground.
Well, first, thanks, Eva, for that great introduction and for introducing everyone. It's an honor to be here on this panel. So let me tell you guys a bit about Open Map Lebanon. I mean, we're very much a community. I think we're probably the only group here that's not an organization. We're not a company. We're just a group of people that got together and we all had different skills. And we thought, okay, what can we do to help in some way? I mean, it was really amazing. If you went down the second day or the third day after the explosion, there was just an outpouring of volunteers and people wanting to help. So everyone was just trying to do something, whatever they could. So it started by me and a few colleagues or people that just friends actually, who were all in this like digital space in Lebanon, Lebanese abroad. And we thought about what we could do. So my specialty is satellite imagery. So first I reached out to some people I know who work in satellite imagery and I said, is there anything we could do to help out the destruction? And the response there was, it was actually very difficult because other than the port, there weren't many buildings that were completely demolished. Most of the damage was facade, was internal, and there was huge human impact. So we kept that going, but we're like, we need to find a few other solutions. So we launched 2 projects initially, and I'm gonna show, I don't want it to be like a slideshow oriented thing, but I'm gonna show a few demos. So the first thing we did is we just launched a simple map, deploying an existing software that exists called Ushahidi. So people can just say, I am here at this exact point, this is my building, and I need help in this. So that way other people could respond. So that became the start of our mapping for NGOs and for needs assessment, and it's evolved massively. I'm gonna get to that in a second. And the second project that we started was a street level imagery project, because like we said, most of the damage, as I'm sure we're all aware, was glass and facade, and there was just a lot of damage that how do you quantify it? How do you know actually, like, you know, in the first few days, some people were throwing out numbers like 300,000 families were affected. It could be a $500 million problem. It could be $1 billion. It could be 10 billion. Like, those are huge differences. So how can we actually get the data to start answering those questions? So that's when we started thinking of ideas. So one of the things that we did is we launched a project using also an existing tool, because once something exists, no need to reinvent the wheel. A service called Map Lebanon. I'm going to show you a couple of examples, and it was really easy. And we just launched a call for volunteers, and actually Volunteer Circle helped us a lot to get volunteers to just go down, download the app on their phone, and then take pictures of buildings. And those pictures would be automatically uploaded to this platform that anyone in the world can access. And we were talking to the Mapillary team globally, and then they pushed that out to their network. So like later we found out that I think the Red Cross in Geneva or in Luxembourg, one of them, used the images that were there to help do their own damage assessment. So I mean, that's the whole point of what we were trying to do, is that there was a disaster and we needed to generate data to enable insights, which would then enable action. So I'm going to be a bit more visual now and share my screen to show you guys a bit more of what we've been doing. All right. Okay. Can you see the screen? All good?
It is now,
okay.
yes.
I'm gonna take, yes, excellent. Okay, so this is our current map. So if you go onto our website, openmaplebanon.org, you're gonna see a map that looks like this. And this is a result of a lot of effort from people in our community and other NGOs that have been working on this, because everyone realized the need to share information about where you're working. Like there's a term or a phrase in the development community, which I didn't really know at first, about who, what, where. So who is doing what where. So we thought that's a very easy, theoretically easy thing to put on a map. So that's all we wanted to do, is that NGOs tell us that we're working here and this is what we're working on. Or we did a needs assessment here and this is what we have. So that way, at least if one NGO isn't working in Amal Khair, another one is working there as well, they can at least have a conversation, so you don't get 10 different organizations going to a single household per day when maybe the neighbor isn't getting anyone. So there was a lot of duplication efforts, and luckily many organizations were willing to work with us. And let's see if this works. So this is a little,
actually it was an issue in the beginning that some areas were somehow left behind and others were massively, yes.
Because it's difficult, you know, like you don't, I think a beautiful thing that happened, I'm going to talk while this is happening. Yeah, I'll actually get back to that just because this is going. The way that we worked here, I'm not sure what mouse is that, okay, I'm going to pause, is that we created this map so that we could start mapping out the efforts of NGOs to respond to the problem that you highlighted. So people know where other organizations are working. And here's an example from Volunteer Circle, putting you guys on the spot a little bit, of just a small subset of their information that we were willing to put publicly. Like, of course, Volunteer Circle, their survey has a lot more information about family needs, but that doesn't need to be public, nor should it be. So here, put this information to help them coordinate between each other. So I'm going to continue the video just to show you guys a little bit more. Oof, technology. Okay. So anyway, and then we added, when we kept trying to respond to different needs, like for example, one of the amazing things that I think happened is that the Lebanese Red Cross said, okay, there's a lot happening. What we need to do is to divide, I'm gonna go back here, Beirut, or the affected area, into zones. So they took this map and they drew out zones kind of based on streets and then started allocating it to NGOs. So then what we heard from the community is that they want to know where this zone is. They wanted an easy map. They wanted to click on a map and see, okay, I'm in zone 72. What other organizations are doing similar work here as well? So that's something, that's a feature that you could say that we added to the map, just because, okay, pausing videos in PowerPoint is not easy. Just because that was a response to the needs. And I just
Okay.
have to say that, you know, this has gone really, really well. We, like, just a month ago, we had about
Yes.
2,000 records, and now with partnerships, we're up to 20,000, and we're still trying to grow and to make it even more and more usable. Because at the end of the day, the whole point of any digital solution is that it has to meet a need. Like, there's no point in creating something. It doesn't matter how pretty and polished it is, if it's just going to sit there and not used. So that's been a huge effort that we've been doing. I'm going to try to go quickly.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Just can you speak up a little so it's easier for Rasha to follow and to translate? And this is for all.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let me make sure the. Okay. All right. I'll try to speak slower and clearer, and do call me out if not. This is just an example of the Mapillary project that I mentioned earlier, where we asked people to go around and take pictures. And if you go on, I think it's mapillary.com, you can see these images, and every green dot here is an image submitted by volunteers. And if you click on it, you can see the destruction. And this is good for now, and it's good for the future.
Yes.
Like, we need to know, actually documented, what happened. And now, I think the best thing, I think our strength as a community is that we are a community. We're not an organization that's exclusive. Anyone can join, and that's been really great. So one of our most recent partnerships with the Rice University Spatial Studies Lab happens to be headed by a Lebanese expat, which is great. So he connected with us and he said, our team works on making really cool maps, so let's work together. So we're working on a map with them in development to take our map to the next level. So I have a few kind of demos of how this is working now. And this is, I mean, the website is live, but it hasn't really been rolled out officially, but I just want to show everyone here, like, kind of what can be done. Okay, let's see. So this is I'm showing you how it works. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying, like, we will talk about the results and the data you gathered so far just after you finish this. It's okay.
Exactly. So this here, I'm just showing how we're trying to add features that you can filter by NGO. And then now organizations are like, we need to know ICOD, we need to know parcel level. So we got that information and we're all adding it in. So you can click on the parcel, you can click on the building and see all the information that we have gathered on that building. And we have some information
on the data
here, and we're
that the
adding a lot
NGO
more.
have shared with you. That's it?
From NGOs, from publicly available information, which exists, but you have to read it.
And tenants as well?
We're not
Are
reaching out
individuals
directly.
using this? You're not, okay. Okay.
No, I mean, they could. I mean, we could add a layer there, but we felt like the NGOs have a much stronger link to the tenants that let's like excel in our role as the digital provider and let NGOs excel in their roles as who they are.
Okay.
And then there's
how frequently is it updated? Is it auto-updated immediately once the data is entered?
Yes. So we've created a system that it's completely automatic. When NGOs update, we have a platform for the NGOs that's automatically added. And we actually have a great team of volunteers who are following up with each NGO and asking them, could you please update your data, you know, every few days to make sure that it's live and useful.
Great.
I also wanted to show a couple more features. So the more information we get, we add. So like the Mapillary information before, they were able to add to the map. So you can even scroll through and see all these pictures. Every little like gold dot in a way is one of the images that was provided. And there are thousands of images that were submitted by volunteers, people I have never met. And I think that's amazing just to think about when you create the right digital solution and you market it, like you can get an amazing amount of help, which is really cool. And finally, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I wanted to ask, was it the collaboration with the NGOs? Did you go for it, or did they know about you? How did this happen? Because this happened so quickly, and you've put up the solution very quickly, and everyone was working in parallel. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the coordination and actually which NGOs you worked with? How many?
I have to say that it was very organic, like for lack of a better word, that when we created this, and initially we marketed it on WhatsApp because we were nothing, right? We just said we have this website and we shared it to our contacts, and then it kept getting shared. And I think what made this powerful is that everyone saw the need for this solution. Like everyone realized, the NGOs realized that when they were going to a household, that household were saying, you're the 5th NGO to come to us today, and that's a problem. So they said that this is a solution that needs to exist. So it was very, I mean, that relationship happened a lot. Volunteer Circle was one of the first NGOs, like Beirut Blast. I mean, there are quite a few. If you go on our Instagram page, you can see it directly. Lebanese Red Cross, they were working with us from the start, and now we've officially got their data, and they were, you know, a huge player on the ground. They also have data of at least like 20 other organizations. So it was a very kind of, everyone is in on this because they believed it was a good solution. Okay, I don't know if I should show you just quickly a couple final things, or if you want to pause and go on to the conversation.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just want to show you a couple, one like interesting thing that we don't really think about. So the team have used a 3D model of Beirut that they were able to stitch together. And this is all open, anyone can go see it. And then they started getting videos and pictures that people posted on Twitter, on anything, at the time of the blast, and they put it. So if you go through, you can see where it was taken from. And while, you know, this is, I think this is interesting and it's really cool, but I also am going to show you in the next slide, is it was actually useful. So there's an article, this was actually just published 3 days ago. It was using this paper that was published by Sam Rigby and a team at Sheffield University, where they used social media videos to do a physics analysis on the blast. And they now have the most accurate estimates. Exactly, because they got all of these videos and they were able to go frame by frame.
And they were able to calculate the radius.
Exactly. So we don't think of videos that you're taking as data, but it is data that enabled this study that is now published. And this is now the most accurate estimate we have to date of how much nitrogen or how much ammonium nitrate was there. So I'm also showing that, you know, we have this, we're working on helping NGOs, but just getting information out there has so many benefits that we don't even think about. Like we didn't even think that the data would be used in this capacity. And I think that's just a cool example.
Before we move to talking about actual data and figures, there are two questions in the chat room for you. One of them is asking, would it be updated later on to show the actual work that is being done and the renovations? That's for one. And second, does it include also the shelters for refugees? Because some people had to leave their homes. Is it also a map that allowed people to find shelters where to stay in Lebanon after this catastrophe?
So both great questions. For question one, that's actually the reason that we're moving with the RICE team, is because a lot of the immediate relief is now done-ish, or it's been managed. Now the biggest part of this problem is the shelter rehabilitation. And that's a big, complicated problem. And we need live information about how has this house been rehabilitated, who's doing it. So that's why we're working with them. So it becomes on a building level, not on just random points on the map. So this is the effort, what we're working towards right now, is to enable kind of a platform like this to have all that information, to help relief efforts, to make sure there are no gaps, to see where the money is. I mean, we're thinking about what's the best way to do it in collaboration with partners.
And is RICE helping you with the logistics, or are you also depending on the data from the NGOs for this? How this collaboration is?
So RICE is doing the platform, and actually AUB Urban Lab is our another big partner. So a lot of the data on the built environment is from the AUB Urban Lab. And then the NGO data is through us and through other partners. So it's really, it's actually amazing. I mean, I'm from an academic background in many ways, and you always see groups working individually. It's really, really cool to see all these groups working together for the benefit of just a solution. So yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, there was a second question.
The second question was mainly about shelters. Was the map only focusing on damages and damaged houses and businesses, or did it also provide a map for shelters for the victims?
For people, yeah. It's a good question. So we actually, one of the first conversations was with the Google Maps team. And there's a really great team of Googlers, whatever they call themselves, and Lebanese Googlers who got together. And we spoke about what's something that they could do and what's something that we could do. So the Google team, they decided to take on the shelter map. And they did a really fantastic job, and they kept that updated. And there's a link somewhere. And if anyone's interested, we can find it. So they did the shelter map, and then we did the damage and needs assessment.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm going to start to wrap up quickly. I just want to highlight a few more things, if that's okay. Just another, okay, thank you. So one of our big partners is the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab team at Caltech. And they're now in, Sang-Ho Young is now the head of this unit, is Open Map Lebanon and part of our weekly meeting. They use a very particular form of satellite data, which I'm not going to go into, but that's you basically emits radars to the earth. It's really cool. And they do they do damage proxy maps for crises everywhere, in Haiti and Nepal. So they were actually the first group to publish any map of the damage in Beirut, and this is it. But the problem with these maps is it's difficult to calibrate. So then we had this partnership where we're helping them improve the map. So improve the study, one, to help Lebanon right now, but still really need this information, level of damage. And two, so they can actually do this better for future projects and future crises in Lebanon and etc. So this is just kind of an example of how we're also working with this international community on all of this. This is my last slide. I just want to emphasize that this is completely not an individual effort, and this is just a small snapshot of our team. And we're all over the world, and we're doing. I mean, it's really amazing. I mean, like I said, we're just a community of people, and whenever anyone has an idea on something they can do, they gather together and they just try to make it happen. I'm going to end the show there because I think I've been talking a lot.
We'll get back with questions for you, but now we'll move to Ala from the Volunteer Circle, because Ala is representing one of the NGOs you worked with. And Ala, just tell us, how did you collaborate with Open Map Lebanon? How did it start? How did it help you actually? Knowing that the volunteer circle is mainly specialized in finding volunteers for social initiatives. So can you tell us more about the actual collaboration that happened between you and Open Map Lebanon?
Sure. I would like to start by saying, Melda, wow, you did an incredible job by wrapping up everything. So as you have certainly heard before from the amazing Melda and the amazing team behind Open Map, Open Map is one of the Beirut Relief Coalition partners. Beirut Relief Coalition partner, they're like a huge number of NGOs, more like 170 NGOs that are working for basically the relief. And we started working with Open Map Lebanon shortly 1 week after the blast, because we believe that we don't have to kind of compromise the quality of the transparency of our activities, even if we have to shift to crisis management and emergency response. So this is where we come from. The good thing that happened is that Open Map had data scientists and people who are able to visualize data. So we learned through them the importance of open data and disaster relief. And the synergy here is that our data also enriched their platform, because we worked on to assess the needs of the families impacted by the blast. So our data enriched the platform, and we learned through them the importance of open data. So I'm sure this scenario is also the case with many, if not all, partners with the Beirut Relief Coalition.
Ala, sorry to interrupt you once again. Can you slow down for our dear Rasha? She's doing her best. But yeah, I know we tend to talk very, very fast. And yeah, just a kind reminder. Thank you so much.
Do I have to recap from somewhere, or do I like
No,
continue?
no, but just avoid
Okay.
to put your hand like that also, so she can hear you better.
Okay.
And you have a beautiful smile, so let's see it.
All right, so that was it for the collaboration between Map and Volunteer Circle.
Okay, but then you as Volunteer Circle, somehow you were ready for that. It wasn't having this digital solution for you, wasn't something difficult to adapt because you already had digital solutions as an NGO. Tell us more, what is Volunteer Circle? How does it function? What is the digital solution that you already offered before the August 4th explosion? And how did you work through this, and with how many NGOs did you collaborate on, you know, actually finding volunteers for them and matching their needs?
So we represent a community of 4,000 people that want to help by volunteering, but don't know how and where to start. So not only in crisis, but the Volunteer Circle also turns naturally into a tool for emergency response. It's because the Volunteer Circle is based on technology accessible to everybody without having to go through calls and meetings, you know? So as we are speaking, for example, like right now, the platform is getting updated on its own when organizations we're working with are adding new opportunities on the platform, and volunteers join and apply. So the community is growing as we speak. It's because it's all there. It's updated in real time, and because it represents the new aspirations kind of and trends of how this generation taps into volunteering and skill sharing. Because let's be honest, people no longer want to volunteer for one organization, but rather to associate themselves to the cause NGOs might be supporting. So one thing is certain, it's no longer the traditional model, but people want what's fast and efficient, where they feel like their work is purposeful. So we designed
what also
our
is
platform in a
transparent,
way,
because this helps with transparency, and it's very important.
Exactly. So we designed this platform in a way anybody can ask, how can I make an impact in my community, or how can I use my time and skills meaningfully as soon as possible? So they will find an answer on our platform through the opportunities that the organizations are posting on the website. So as much as we're trying to move forward with society and every citizen have a piece of them reflected in there, we're also trying to make people discover the surface needs they did not know existed. For example, volunteering. Some people don't know the added value of volunteering. So this answers one of our most worked on problematical questions for efficient call to action. So how to mobilize digital communities for active impact offline.
Okay. Great. We'll get back with questions later on with Ala. Did you want to share with us the Volunteer Circle presentation, or do you keep it for later? Okay.
Let me share my screen.
Just so people would know that actually you were digital ahead of the explosion, and that maybe this has helped you to catch up with the Open Map Lebanon.
Sharing my screen. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay.
Oh no, not yet. I am not able to share my screen. It's because the power cut off. So.
Okay. Maybe Lara can do that. If not, it's okay. We can.
It's fine. The presentation was just about how, from a user's perspective, how people could apply to volunteering.
Now,
Okay,
Ala,
so
you
maybe
should
in
be
the chat,
able.
maybe you can share your website in the chat room. So maybe
you
we
can,
have
Anna.
people who wants to be volunteers, who wants to volunteer, they can find you and log in.
Ala,
So-
if you want to try again, I think now it should be possible that you can share your screen, just for your information.
I think yes. Okay, can you see the screen or?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Cool. Okay, so I just wanted to show you some numbers. For example, okay, it's loading. The volunteer circle started in 2019, and you know, through what we've been through, Lebanon basically has been through a lot recently. So in the revolution, for example, we estimated the economic value of volunteering in the revolution. We basically asked NGOs about how much money they spent in their own projects and opportunities. Also, in COVID-19, many organizations also were working for the COVID-19 relief, whether on the basic assistance sector or food security, etc. And the last thing I wanted to show you was how the Volunteer Circle platform works from a user's perspective. So you can either apply as an organization or as a volunteer. So let's say you're an organization for now, and you would like to post your profile. It takes 3 minutes to apply on the website. You just add your basic information for people to see. And of course, there are some regulations. I just want to show you there. For example, this is an example of Borderless, which is an organization that works for refugees. They basically support their education. So they just add their name, the type of organization, if it's an NGO or like a CBO, a community-based organization. And they add, for example, the listing, which is the opportunity, and people would like to apply to that one if they meet the criteria. So that's basically it.
Okay. And so you don't interfere. So there's...
Exactly. This is the idea.
Yes. So there's the algorithm already matching. Okay. Okay. We'll go back to what's next for you in a while. And for now, let's move to the architects with us from Paris. We have Yves and Bachar talking about street level imagery with Melda. We know that Bachar and Yves have started working on an interesting 3D mapping project for the Heritage Preservation Project. Bachar, please tell us first. We know that you're behind somehow bringing Yves to this intervention in Beirut. Actually, we were talking to Yves and he told us it's Bachar who got me on this project. Can you tell us more how you gathered efforts and what's the purpose of this heritage relief operation, knowing that the two emergencies in Beirut were actually the human relief that we covered in our first part, but also the cultural heritage help or support, because the streets and the areas that were mostly endangered and devastated were actually the oldest streets in Beirut. So please tell us more about your initiative.
Sure, of course. Just after the explosion, we all felt like useless and guilty because having a major in architecture and in renovation and being abroad makes you feel useless and not being able to help your country in this situation. So a couple of days after the explosion, Yves contacted me and asked me if I was interested in working on a mission of 3D mapping of Beirut. So in order to be able to do that, we had a lot of preparation. We had a month of preparation in order to make this mission happen. And we had to see who are the key people, who are the organizations, and who are the main go-to persons in order to make this happen. And we had to contact a lot of non-organizational institution and government institution like DGA, Direction Générale des Antiquités, that helped us a lot on site. And in order to be able to do all that, we understood that there's no direct way. We had a lot of problems and unexpected situations before the mission, and we had to adapt, and Eve insisted on going to Lebanon, even though we didn't have all the positive input that we needed before. And we decided that if we weren't able to be to get in contact with all the people before the mission, we would go anyways and introduce ourselves and try to make it happen. But thankfully, it all happened with the support of Eve and the UNESCO. We got in touch with a lot of architect restorers like the BBHR, Beirut Built Heritage Rescue. There's a group of architects specialized in renovation that are mapping a lot all the damages that are happening and that happened in Beirut, because the damages didn't stop on the 4th of August. They're moving forward, and a lot of buildings are getting more and more endangered with time. And the purpose of the mission was to start mapping of Beirut, a general mapping, starting with the endangered area and going further in order to archive all these data that haven't been done. That's something that haven't been done before. You can find some data in the army base, geographic army base, but these data are very private and very hard to get. And we wanted to make all this data go public in order for people to use it, and for universities and for architects, because the 3D mapping technology allows us to accelerate the renovation, the renovation of the monuments, because it allows us to have a lot of elements for the architects to start renovation.
Work on. Yes. So it actually makes the work easier and faster.
Yes, it makes the work very
because you rebuild the building for them virtually before they actually work on the actual rebuilding.
We use multiple method that Eve is gonna explain, but mainly drone mapping, and we fly above the city, above the areas on different heights in order to get different types of details, and we match these pictures in order to get a 3D map. And I'm gonna show you later the preliminary results of this mapping. And we had to. We also had to use a pole which with cameras on it in order to get more details and more pictures from the street. And we had the chance to work with BBHR and a lot of people who just wanted to discover this new technology and help us get all the data we needed for Beirut. And what we did in this mission is we started something, and our aim is to continue and to pursue all this effort, in order to get this 3D map that's going to help the architects, and that's going to let us keep an archive of this moment in Beirut, because we never know, and we know with the history of Beirut, and there's a lot of circumstances that we can't control, and this a building that exists today may not exist tomorrow, and that's something very dangerous, and it's a part of our memory, and it's not just stone and architecture, it's more of a society that's losing a part of its memory and remaking the same mistakes. So that's one of the aim of the mission.
Yes, knowing also that Beirut has a seismic risk, a very high seismic risk, so also this can be used, although we don't need any more catastrophes now, but
we never know.
But I understand that yes, you're archiving the actual cultural heritage, which helps with the rebuilding, but also saving the history.
Yes.
Let's move to Eve. Eve, I know that you've been based in Syria and Iraq and Iran. You've worked on a lot of experiences in Palmyra and Aleppo. And can you explain for us, for the non-technicians, what are the technologies you use? We know that it's interdisciplinary methods that you use. What does that mean for the Beirut project? How are you proceeding and what's the purpose? Is it in one section, one street, or is it covering actually the whole damaged area? Please tell us more about your project with the UNESCO.
So the technology we are using in Beirut, and the same technology we are using everywhere, it's very simple on the field. I mean, you just have to take picture. You can take picture from the ground with a pole, with a drone, and with many kind of method, but you have to take enough picture to be able then for the computer to make the computer able to reconstruct in 3D the place. So you need thousands and thousands of images. It's better to have drone images because as you may imagine, this is like general images, so you can match other with that. Maybe I can share my screen so
Yes,
you will have an idea of this is a kind of I mean, this is a kind of a drone we can use. This is in Afghanistan, for example. So the drone is flying, taking pictures. We are following like a pattern with the drone to cover like a map. So we take a lot of number of pictures, and then after there is an algorithm with AI that can, analyze picture by picture and then match the picture together, and then we reconstruct the 3D model. So maybe you can see this video. This is a 3D model of a site, and this is another one. So you can take like a full landscape. And then you can zoom in the landscape and see, the detail of the site. So what is interesting in it is when you have a lot of data from, I don't know, archaeological site, a city or something like that, it's possible to rebuild like a full photorealistic environment. So it's a 3D, so you can take some measure, you can make some calculation of areas, you can make a real study on that, like in the real landscape. It's like you can use it as a topographic map, you can use it also as a database, and you can put information in it. So it's interesting just first to archive, just the site as it was at the precise time, but it's also interesting to store data. So you can store like in a database, store data from the wall. This was like a painting. There is sculpture. So you can have all this data put together in the same basis. So we started, developing this approach first in Afghanistan, then in Syria, in Iraq, and with different kind of. There is different way of taking picture, and this is like a very high lens. This is one kind of drone. This is another kind of drones, and then in this way you can map very very quickly like situation. In crisis, like this here, it's Palmyra, for example. So this is a museum of Palmyra with the destruction. So we were there just to make the documentation of the museum itself. So the destruction of the museum, but also the temples and the destruction of the temples. And this is very, I think, important also for the future to keep this image of the destruction. And then what is interesting in it, so I can explain very quickly, but in the virtual,
if you can explain more about Aleppo, because it's a similar case as Beirut. It's also a city, so
exactly.
You can showcase some photos from Aleppo, because also it was a city that was destroyed.
Exactly. So we were very few weeks after the end of the battle, we came to Aleppo. So here I'm in Aleppo with a pole, and there is like a camera at the top of the pole. It's 360 cameras that take picture every steps, and in this way it's possible to map a city, because you can with this 360 picture recreate in 3D the map of the city. So we did this. We did the level of the drones. We did the level of the pole. We did the level of picture from the ground, and then you get thousands of pictures like that. This is some areas, historical areas of Aleppo, so you can see the bombing, and you can see all the detail of the destruction, and then you recreate like this. This is a 3D map again, so you can zoom in and see the detail of every part of the city. This is, you can cut part of this maps and make some measurements. This is the citadel of Aleppo, for example, and this is Umayyad Mosque. So the minaret was completely destroyed. And then after, you can use it as a document for architect and for the restoration. So you can make some section and measure, the destruction of some places, and you can make all this kind of analysis. And this, for example, is the result of the digitizing of the souk. So you have all the detail, all the stone. It's completely black because it was burnt, but we keep all the detail from that time. And then after, for the restorer, it's easier to plan like the restoration with all this documentation. So the idea is to share the documentation with the people who will work on it in the future.
Someone is asking, how accurate is the measurements that you can take from such 3D mapping?
Depend of the project.
The purpose of reconstruction. So can an architect actually work on this data without having to work on location, for example, for measurements?
Yeah, all the data are geolocalized. It's not so different than the work Open Map Lebanon are doing with the picture. Every picture is geolocalized. The only difference is we are processing the 3D model that is behind the geolocalization of the picture. So you can take measurement, and for example, in the souk, as you see the image you have, you can have like 5 millimeter accuracy. It's enough for an architect to work. But you can see, this is another project we did in Mosul, in Iraq. And this is the 3D model we got. It's kilometers of buildings. So this is a point cloud. It's billions of points that recreate, the landscape of the city. And here you have one point every 4 centimeters. So it's enough for urban planning, even for some architectural assessment. But you need more detailed element if you want, to go through a restoration of one building or another. So there is different level of analysis. There is a landscape on urban level, there is architectural level, and then after you have the level of, I don't know, decoration, sculpture, but you can combine, all this level together. And for example, this is a Al-Nouri Mosque in Mosul. So I'm coming back there in 1 week to continue the work. And UNESCO is today is restoring this mosque and using this data to restore it. So it's really useful behind for the architect.
So your work is actually requested by UNESCO, both in Mosul and Beirut, right? Yeah. You're also contracting with UNESCO in Beirut. Bachar, can you tell us more about the Beirut project? What's happening now? Do you have already primary data?
Yes,
what are the challenges you're facing?
Of course. We had a couple of objectives before going to the mission. The first one was normally the launching of the 3D mapping to get in touch with the key players and to evaluate the context. But then again, we thought about raising awareness in the DGA, Direction Générale des Antiquités, that has the technology, but due to lack of equipment and funding, don't have enough know-how in order to complete this mapping by itself.
Maybe they lack the experience, actually.
Also,
if you've already worked in
the
different
equipment,
exactly.
and there's a lot of lack
funding.
There's a lot of lack that we wanted to fill, and we wanted to train locals in Lebanon in order to make them in order to lead them to autonomy, because without our job isn't to go there and make some money. It's really to help the local get the data by themselves and be autonomous. And while you're doing all that, we had a lot of difficulties. Like, for example, drone authorization. Generally, you get the drone authorization from the army, and we wake up every day. We had like a small plan of the mission, but we knew that it might change within hours. For example, the first day we went to the DGA, and we did all the paperwork in order to start, and just a couple of minutes before flying the drone, we saw the fire break out in the port, which stopped our mission. But it didn't stop us from completing our mission in general, but that day was cut short because of the and it's stuff that we should work with, and it shouldn't stop us from going forward. At the contrary, it should push us to find new solutions every time, and the solutions are really different every single time. And because we live in the country where there's extreme instability of the local situation, and the margin for unforeseen events is very high.
Yes, it's a high-risk country. So.
And,
yes, Melda.
Finally, we wanted to create like a connection and a collaboration with academic in an academic situation, like with the Lebanese University, with the Centre de Restauration et de Conservation in Tripoli, where I did 1 year of renovation, in order to create a lab that teaches the students there the new technologies in order to help them with their career and help them with the survey of all the different types and different scales that they might need. It could start with an element, with a glass, or with a sculpture, and go and continue as a monument, and end with a city all by itself. So this technology.
Great. So you're actually scaling your experience not only in delivering the service and the 3D mapping, but also in a kind of teaching experience for the locals.
It's
so
like
they build as well their competencies.
Exactly, but because it's something really important, and we want to encourage all the local actions that are happening, because people there are so motivated, and the situation doesn't help, but that doesn't stop them from going forward. And we wanted to push this initiative, and in order to make it helpful for not only for architects but for locals, because technology, an absence of culture, is just a mechanism, and we wanted this technology and the result that we were going to obtain to be used by architects and by universities for future urban planning of Beirut. And we wanted, after a discussion that we had with Open Map Lebanon and Live Love Beirut at the end of our mission, we had, and IFPO, l'Institut Français du Proche-Orient, we wanted to mix this data with social data, because architectural data is important, but when we mix it with the social data, with all the information that we can get about the apartments or what the buildings, that helps the architects know which building needs to be restored, like in the short time of period, and what could
what can wait. The emergencies. Exactly. And actually, is your data also an open source data, or do you have the right to share it, or UNESCO owns the data you're working on?
For now, all the data is owned by Direction Générale des Antiquités, because we were working in collaboration with them in order to help them complete their archives. And the main goal is to make this data public in order to be used by all the people that need it.
Okay. I think
So
Melda had a question
could
for
I
you.
add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, no, it
I
was
wanted
more
to
of,
ask
it's
actually
actually,
if you can collaborate on this with your street.
so actually I met Eve and Bashar weeks ago when they were doing the mission in Beirut, because actually one of our big projects that I didn't mention, and I'll get to why, is we have a big drone mapping project where there's a company in, I think in Luxembourg or somewhere in Europe, called Pix4D. And I think even Eve, the technology that they use to stitch the images together to create this model is Pix4D. So Pix4D reached out to some Lebanese people through, I think, NAR as an organization, Augment, it's a really cool organization, becoming one of our big partners. And they offered to do the stitching for all of Beirut, that if we were able to get drone imagery for all of Beirut, that they would do it. And this is a multi-million-dollar project that they're willing to do for free. And it's really incredible, the generosity. So a group of people, and like even Bashar, we got connected through that. A bunch of people interested in this drone mapping got together as we kind of connected under Open Map Lebanon. And they did a call for drone pilots, and we got many volunteer drone pilots. We threw a call for drones, and we got the small drones, and we even got huge fixed wings drones that people volunteered for free to the team. And then this team has been the biggest issue, and this is what Bashar just alluded to, is that we have not been able to get approval from the army in 2 months. And what's sad is that actually many of the people we're working with, or that we were in contact with, like General Hawayek, who is in charge of the emergency room, support us. But because, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be political or anything, but it's just more of a statement of how sometimes you can have digital solutions, amazing people willing to work, but if there's a bottleneck, it really holds us back. So although every person we talk to is completely on board, and we're able to even work with Pix4D to manage concerns. Like one of the concerns of the army was, what if we get this data set and that somebody misuses it and they edit it and they do something? So we came with a complicated solution to make sure that can't happen, that it's still publicly visible and accessible, but nobody could misuse it. We actually started talking about data governance laws.
Why you're not getting the license or not? Because someone is asking a question about also personal data and how some personal data was misused in Haiti and different countries.
Absolutely.
So you have a question. Do you think that this is one of the reasons why such licenses are not given, or is it rather related to security issues? So do you have an answer?
So I think it's both. And I think there's also a reality check. So one, we're talking about the built environment, and this is in and of its nature public. Like the fact that we can forget the drones, even if we didn't do drone mapping, if we just went around with poles and took pictures, we would have that information. It's public information. And through our conversations, we realized actually there's a company in the United States that have a perfect 3D model of Beirut, something we want to create, that is free and available to all US government employees. So now we're sitting here and we're debating little things, while in reality, this data set actually exists. So like there's a conversation of data privacy, and I'm willing to go into that because that's so core to my heart. But when we're talking about information that can be collected and it is public, we're talking about buildings, facade, that with a camera you can take a picture with your phone. While we're sitting and debating how the stitching of it shouldn't be public, the reality is any security concern you want, if you're concerned about other countries, they have that information. They probably have it way better than us, free group of volunteers.
Yes,
can possibly
because
make.
some drones
it's a shame.
fly freely over Beirut.
And that's the reality. So why are we sitting and debating about something that is in its nature public? So when we talk about, let's say, volunteer circles data, that is private. There's a lot of private information there. So we have been now we're actually working with groups of lawyers in Lebanon because we want to create data governance laws. It's unacceptable that we don't have these laws in Lebanon.
definitely.
Exactly. So we've actually been following European. So I do my PhD in London, and London has probably one of the strictest data privacy laws ever, and it governs
After
a lot
Germany,
of what we do.
I
So
think.
we've been actually, so GDPR, which is the European,
Yes.
it's a European
Yes.
framework. So we use
Yes.
GDPR standards in all our work, and even more.
Mhm.
And we actually have been talking to UN OSHA, which is the governing body. So anytime we deal with anything that could be private to even the public information, we're going completely data governance and data privacy and data ethics first. Because I think what we need to do as members of this community is to set the standards, even if the law isn't there yet. Let's operate
Yes.
according to the standards of where it should be, and let the law follow.
Yes.
And we're going to lobby and try to get the laws going.
So when it's related to the data of people and collecting actually the actual human relief data related, yes, you're using this, but what's being done related to the data collection of geolocalization and the mapping? I don't know if you have the answer, or maybe Eve or Bashar, because some people are asking also in the chat room about how big, how usually data is being misused for data mining and data extraction purposes by big tech companies like Facebook and Google. How do you ensure that the data you collect is not misused or can actually put people in danger?
Sorry to cut you off.
Yes, no. Anyway, once you release data, the data can be used by everyone, so there can be a misuse. But I think the real problem is not the misuse of the data. The real problem is the lack of the data. And in such crisis situation, if you don't have data, the situation is worst. You cannot work. So it's more important, I think, to share data, even if there is some privacy that will be shared, because it's for the common good. So, the situation in context of crisis, in the context we are working us in Aleppo, in Mosul, and even in Beirut in some case, I think it's better to share data. That's my personal view, but it's the view from my experience.
So I agree, but only when it comes to data that is already public. So if we're talking built environment, that's public. Fine, but even then, I think there should be standards applied to how the data is shared. When we're talking private data, like for example, with our work with NGOs, many of them just would send us their information, and we said, no, we don't even want to receive it. We're not going to make it public, but we don't want to receive it. We want only the subset of your data that is of its nature public, like certain things. If there's a name, we don't want names, we don't want family name, we don't want phone numbers.
This issue was risen,
yeah.
Melda, because some NGOs were actually filling applications for people with names, all details. Exactly. And there was a big problem around it a few weeks ago.
Absolutely.
That where is all this data being shared and used?
So we don't want this. And actually what we've been trying to do in response, which is part of our scope and actually a bit outside, is to start teaching the people that we're working with that once you collect information from an individual, you're signing a contract with that individual, whether it's on paper or not, that you are their data guardian. You're collecting personal things from them. And technically that should be written. It should be written what you're going to do with that information. We're not there yet as a country, but we need to get there. So we're trying to tell the data guardians, these NGOs who have this information, that it's your responsibility. You cannot just go and share, and you can't go sell. You can't do things like that. You can't give it to political parties.
It's a new culture. It's a new culture that they don't know about.
So this is what we're trying to now educate on. And and I think people are receptive. I have to say, it's like, although this knowledge, this culture wasn't there, people are very receptive and like, this is the way it should be done, so let's do it right. So I think there is a movement happening here, that hopefully will be able to grow, maybe with people who are listening, that there is this open data world, which we need to start getting on. But open data can exist completely coexist with the strictest data privacy laws. And you don't have to take my word for it. This is how it happens in Europe, where governments are forced to put a lot of their information public. They have to put salary information public of their employees. They have to put a lot. So they've been able to figure out a world where by law, government has to publish everything that they're doing, and public NGOs have to publish what they're doing. It has to be public, yet that coexists with levels of data privacy that I don't think we can even think of. Like in the UK, you're not legally obliged to have an ID. I can walk as a person and nobody can say, give me your ID. You don't have to have it. So imagine we're dealing with a world there where people, you can say, I don't want to tell you who I am. You don't have the right to know if I'm a citizen or if I'm not a citizen or if I'm illegal or if I'm legal. So you're dealing with a culture there that is so data, so privacy first, yet they have also been able to achieve open data. So this is what we're trying to work towards. And I think a lot of people are
actually protecting the private data and making the public one open source. That's
accessible.
The purpose.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, it's Anyway,
I want to ask you, where are you going after this experience? Because just a reminder, we have 10 minutes to wrap up. So I wanted to know, what are the plans for the volunteer circle? How can you scale this experience in the MENA region? I know that you have such projects. Maybe they're still a bit immature, but tell us a little bit, how can other countries in the MENA region benefit from your volunteering work? Because it's very valuable and you showed us the money value behind such work.
So we all learned through this experience that there are those who have a long-term vision and those who reflect on it into what they do today. And that agility married to sustainability in the long-term vision, I think we need to stick to our goals and visions while being agile and able to adapt. So the future plans would be to always strengthen the platform to fit the latest community needs while sticking to our main goals and objectives. So let me paint you the picture. The platform has been growing ever since March 2019, and little do we know that we all got through this unsettling rhythm and a series of events and crises. For example, the nationwide fires to Thawra to COVID-19, we all know the drill. So throughout those events, we learned so much, we gained experiences, and it alone strengthened the ability in order to get to a point where we created a community of organizations and volunteers that are readily available. So thanks to the latest technologies, and because our platform has always been built in an impact-oriented way, we believe that we can enhance the output in terms of partnerships or in terms of talented skills, in terms of volunteers. I thus invite everyone to join the circle, maybe to expand our reach. We're also working on the MENA region, and to join the contemporary volunteer culture in Lebanon and the Middle East.
Okay, great. Bachar, do you have something to add regarding the Beirut project with Eve, or can you give us a timeline? When are you expecting your project to be done or ready?
From my point of view now, for now, the fact that we started the mission is a good starting point, and we were going to pursue, there's a plan of pursuing the mission, and we have set like some objectives for the second part of the mission, like extending the area that we're going to survey, like supporting the needs of the DGA and helping them know what they need, and monitoring every person that wants to get to know photogrammetry and use it in order to document Beirut, and follow the launching of the lab in the Lebanese university and help them equip it and monitor it for the rest of the mission.
Great. And when is your mission is supposed to end? Did you?
No, the mission just started.
Do you have a timeline or no? Do you?
No timeline for now. Like I said, we have a lot of uncertainties, everyday uncertainties, but we made connection in order to have the data, even though we're in France. We're not gonna, while we're in France, there's stuff happening in Lebanon. It's not like the fact of traveling is just the time there.
So you have a team working anyway.
Yes.
I think we can we can have something like a general map at the end of the year, but it's still, you know, on process, so it's difficult now to be very very fixed on the schedule now.
Great. Okay. Looking forward.
Maybe if you want,
check it.
I can share my screen to show you just the. I don't know if it's
yes, we still have 5 minutes, so yes. Show us, because
pictures.
That's from the port area, right?
That's Rue Gouraud. That's
Tarantina.
Starting from Paul to St. Nicholas stairs, and these are really preliminary points about the process of images that we had, and even though here we have like a very few amount of details, and the detail is gonna be like really higher, so we can expect very high definition models. And other stuff that we can use, but because cloud points are important, but they're not directly used by architects. For example, I don't know if you can see it, it's the elevation and the map of the plan of the Saint Joseph Cathedral in Beirut, the one with the Université Saint Joseph. And we did a map with local people there that were part of the mission, like Joe Callas, for example. He helped us all through the mission and still helping us. And he was able to get these elevations, and these elevation would help the architects in order to have all the documents they need to complete the restoration.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay. And you usually work in layers in these, so you see that this is the preliminary. Do you add on layers of photos? Or?
Yes, of course. These, for example, here you can see the photos in the upper part and the middle part, upper part of the street. These photos are taken like at 40 height, but we're going to add pictures at 80 meters height, picture at 100 meters, in order to have different scales and to be able to match them easily.
So this is photogeometry.
Exactly, but that's a very we saw in Eve's presentation how the definition that we could get.
Yes, I can
in order to show people what are the first results.
Okay, great. I don't know if we have questions. Actually, we were giving the questions during the discussion.
Do you mind if I just say one or actually two final really short things?
So of course, Manda,
one in the spirit.
But I was just checking people to send their final questions if they want to. Go ahead.
Thanks. And also feel free to send us emails with questions after. I'm happy to answer later. I just want to say that in the spirit of open data and openness, the way that we're operating as a community is completely open and transparent. So anyone who wants to join our Slack group, Slack is kind of like WhatsApp. That's where we have all our conversations. Anyone can join, and you can see all our conversation history, how we've done everything. All our meeting notes are public. It's completely open. So we're trying to really push the bar on transparency. And two, as a little plug, we're planning a conference in about towards the end of October, and we're going to send it on our social media channels. And this will involve all the big partners that we've worked with, from international organizations, from NASA and hopefully UN OSHA, UNDP, to local organizations, to having, we have a few panels that are going to be about data scientists and how we have some really interesting people who have, are doing projects on electricity, on an air quality. Like we think that Lebanon doesn't have data, but it does. And we think that Lebanon doesn't necessarily have people working with this data to promote data-driven decision-making, but it does. So we want to highlight that, and we're going to push that forward. So just a small little advertisement that information will be coming out on that soon, and it'd be great to have people here. And just in the spirit of openness, we're only as good as how we're challenged. So I think people should always challenge us, always ask the hard questions. That's what will raise the bar in the country. So sorry, I will stop now.
Yes, that's great. Actually, Melda, Dan is working in the Middle East and supporting all initiatives. Any updates you have, you can share them with us. We're happy to put them on our website, on the page. I think I can speak in the name of Basant and all the team, because that's the spirit we work with as well. And actually, some people are asking for information about this conference. So same goes for all of you. Ala, Eve, if you have updates later on, you can share with them the map with us.
Sure.
And Bashar will be happy to publish it as well. And we shared the email of Digital Arabia. It's info@digitalarabia.network. If any of the attendees have questions, that we can put you in contact with our panelists. If you want to actually participate in a way or another in supporting their efforts, also we'll be happy to do the link to, and I want to thank you all. I think out of all this horrible experience, beautiful things came up, and thank you for the hard work you've done and for doing it for Beirut, for the Lebanese people, and for humanity in general, whether you're from Paris or Lebanon. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you to the whole team. And thank you, Rasha.
Thank
you all. It was a great panel. Thanks. And have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
Yes,
bye-bye.
all of you. Bye-bye.